How your biggest failure can become your greatest superpower. What if you've been looking at your failures completely wrong? What if I told you that you're looking at your biggest failures in a completely backwards way? That society has programmed you to see as defects? Exactly what could be your greatest competitive advantage? Neuroscience has a mind-blowing discovery about this. A Stanford University study revealed that people who experience significant trauma develop a 40% greater ability to detect complex patterns and innovative solutions. Your failures literally rewired your brain for genius-level thinking. Think about it this way: when you break a bone, it grows back stronger at the fracture point. Your brain works exactly the same way. Every time you failed, every time you felt inadequate, every moment of emotional pain was forging neural connections that other people simply don't have. You know why most people never discover this superpower? Because they get trapped in shame. They bury their failures so deep that they never get to extract the gold that's hidden inside. It's like having a raw diamond and throwing it in the trash because it doesn't shine yet. But here's what's truly subversive. Your biggest insecurities are detailed maps of your greatest untapped potential. That thing you hate most about yourself? That's probably where your greatest undeveloped strength lives. The person who was always too sensitive becomes the empathetic leader who revolutionizes companies. The disorganized one becomes the creative who thinks outside the box. The anxious one becomes the strategist who anticipates problems nobody else sees. You know what happens when you stop fighting against your nature and start working with it? You discover that what made you different and what you hated is exactly what the world needs from you. Imagine if Einstein had been ashamed of being distracted and forced his mind to function like everyone else's. Imagine if Frida Kahlo had hidden her pain instead of transforming it into revolutionary art. Imagine if Steve Jobs had tried to be more diplomatic instead of embracing his obsessive intensity. You're carrying war ammunition disguised as weakness. The question isn't whether you have superpowers, it's whether you'll have the courage to unearth them from the pile of judgment society has dumped on you. Here's the truth nobody tells you. Your failures aren't bugs in your system, they're features. Unique resources that were developed through experience, pain, and overcoming obstacles. It's time to stop trying to fix what isn't broken and start amplifying what's already extraordinary. So tell me something in the comments. What's that flaw you've always tried to hide? And don't forget to like if this resonated with you. Why? Your scars are your treasure map. Why do the most successful people you know have epic failure stories? Why are those who inspire the world most exactly the ones who suffered the most? Here's what psychology doesn't teach you in school. There's something called post-traumatic growth. Researchers at the University of North Carolina discovered that 70% of people who go through major adversities develop skills and perspectives they never would have had without that experience. Your scars aren't marks of defeat, they're certificates of resilience. Every failure you lived through gave you an emotional education that doesn't exist in any book. You learned firsthand what it's like to get back up when everything falls apart. That's not trauma, that's military training for life. You know what's the difference between you and someone who's never been through anything? They're afraid of what might go wrong. You already know you can survive when things go wrong. That's an absurd competitive advantage you don't even realize you have. Let me give you a practical example. Who would you hire to lead your company in a crisis? Someone who's always had it easy, or someone who's been through bankruptcy, betrayal, loss? Obviously the second option, because they've been tested by the fire of reality. But here's the plot twist. You don't need to wait for an external crisis to activate this superpower. You can start using your past experiences as fuel for your future ambitions right now. That rejection that destroyed you, it taught you not to depend on external validation. That betrayal that broke you, it showed you how to identify toxic people from miles away. That failure that humiliated you, it gave you the humility necessary to learn from anyone. And you know what's crazier? While you're there martyring yourself over your failures, there are people paying coaches thousands of dollars trying to simulate the lessons you already learned for free in real life. You have a PhD in human resilience and don't even know it. You're a specialist in starting over, an expert in reinventing yourself, a master at finding exits where others only see walls. The question is no longer, why did this happen to me? The right question is, how can I use this to my advantage? Because every scar you carry is proof that you were once stronger than something that tried to destroy you. Your pain has been your professor, your setbacks have been your schooling, and your breakdowns have been your breakthroughs in disguise. You've been enrolled in the University of Hard Knocks while others were still playing in the sandbox of comfort. Now answer me in the comments, what was the most difficult experience you lived through that today you can see made you stronger? Like if you recognize this pattern in your life. How to transform your greatest vulnerability into strategic advantage. What if you stopped trying to hide your greatest vulnerability and started using it as your most powerful secret weapon? I'm going to tell you something that will blow your mind. A Harvard Business School study showed that leaders who share their vulnerabilities generate 76% more trust and loyalty in their teams than those who try to appear perfect. This means that while you're wasting energy trying to hide your weak spots, other people are building empires based on the authenticity of their flaws. It's like you have a Ferrari in the garage and you're riding a bicycle because you're embarrassed by the engine noise. Here's the subversive reality. In a world full of people trying to look perfect, being genuinely imperfect makes you irresistibly unique. Your vulnerability isn't a bug, it's the feature that differentiates you from all the emotional robots out there. Think about it. Do you trust more someone who never made mistakes or someone who already made mistakes, owned them, learned, and grew? Obviously, the second person. Because they're real, they're human, they're someone you can relate to. But pay attention. Because here's the game changer, there's a huge difference between victimizing yourself through your failures and empowering yourself through them. Victimization is getting stuck in, why me? Empowerment is transforming that into, what for? Let me give you a practical formula. Take your biggest insecurity and ask yourself, what unique problem can I solve by having gone through this? If you've always been anxious, you can help other anxious people in a way no normal therapist can. If you've always been rejected, you understand the pain of rejection like nobody else. You know what happens when you stop hiding your scars and start showing how they made you wiser. You attract exactly the people who need your experience. You become a magnet for those who are going through what you've already overcome. It's like each of your failures was a key that opens the door to help someone who's locked on the other side. You have an arsenal of solutions that only exist because you lived the problems firsthand. The truth is, the market is full of people trying to sell success, but it's starving for someone who genuinely understands failure, because only those who've been at rock bottom really know how to get out of there. Your mess has become your message, your test has become your testimony, and your misery has become your ministry to others walking the same dark path you once traveled. So stop trying to be the perfect version of yourself, and start being the most powerful version, the one who transformed wounds into wisdom and failures into tools. Tell me in the comments what vulnerability you're ready to transform into strength. And if you understood that your scars can be your greatest differentiator, what if your next failure is your biggest opportunity in disguise? What if I told you that you're one failure away from your biggest breakthrough? That the next no you receive could be exactly the redirection you need to find your true path? Here's a revolutionary discovery from neuroplasticity research. Stanford researchers found that our brain creates more new neural connections during failure experiences than during successes. This means biologically, you literally become smarter every time you mess up. Think about it. Every time something doesn't go as planned, your brain is forced to find alternative routes, create unprecedented solutions, develop a mental flexibility that people who always succeeded simply don't possess. But here's where most people get lost. They treat failure as a destination instead of fuel. It's like you have a tank full of premium gasoline and you're complaining it's not water. My friend, you have pure energy in your hands, you just need to learn how to use it. Let me give you the secret formula nobody teaches. Stop trying to avoid failures and start failing strategically. Fail fast, fail cheap, fail intelligently. Because each failure gives you precious data about what works and what doesn't in the real world. You know what's the biggest difference between those who get stuck in failures and those who use them as springboards? The question they ask. The stuck ones ask, why did this happen to me? The free ones ask, What is this trying to teach me? Your next failure isn't a sign that you're worthless. It's a sign that you're trying things that matter, that you're leaving your comfort zone, that you're on the path of someone who truly wants to grow. And here's the most subversive truth of all. The people we respect most in history are exactly those who failed most spectacularly before triumphing. Edison failed 1,000 times before inventing the light bulb. Oprah was fired for being unsuitable for television. Walt Disney himself was fired for lack of imagination. What did they have that you also have? The courage to see their failures as feedback, not as final verdict. The wisdom to understand that each no brings you closer to the right yes. The maturity to know that your identity isn't in your victories or defeats, but in your ability to reinvent yourself. Your failures aren't roadblocks, they're detours, leading you to destinations you never would have discovered on the main highway. They're plot twists in your story that make the ending so much more meaningful. So stop being afraid of the next failure and start being curious about it, because it might be exactly the plot twist your story was waiting for. Tell me in the comments what failure taught you the most in life. Like if you understood that your failures are features, not bugs. Subscribe if you want more content that destroys myths about success. And share with someone who needs to hear that failing is part of becoming extraordinary.